start the meeting. Council study session, February 23rd, 2026. First item on the agenda is the City Council fiscal year 26-27 goals.
Yeah, so this is a continuation of the discussion we had at our last meeting. Council wanted us to come back after Mayor Kantor and I reviewed them, kind of put some results next to each of the goals, which we did, and that was including your packet. So the entire point of this is to continue that conversation, see if there's any goals you guys want to edit, add, delete, and we can kind of go from there. Like we discussed last time, even though we set a rough timeline in the budget calendar we approved, these are not mandated by charter or anything like that, so we can take our time on these. So we can review and then go from there.
Yeah, the one update I had on page 5, the increased recreational offers, I had added in there a proposal was made to the DEA to obtain funding for staff hours. That actually was approved in the last DEA meeting, so that's actually a thing now. So, but anybody have any updates, questions, additions, deletions, discussion on any of it? Goals. What's that? Goals. While you guys are looking through, I did have one question. On page 8, there's something in there that's under teamwork. It says City Council will provide public acknowledgement of their perceived golden rule excellence. Can somebody explain that to me? What exactly?
Feels like it got cut off.
What's the question?
What exactly does that mean?
What does the golden rule mean?
Well, no, I know what the golden rule means, but it just seems like a weird statement. Will provide public acknowledgement of the golden rule, essentially.
So I think, from what I recall with previous conversations around goals, the notion was that there's a desire to ensure that staff are treating residents and business owners that come to the city by the golden rule. Treat others as you would have done to yourself. So then there's a question of how do you measure that. So
Right. I guess that's what was my question, and then it was I wasn't sure if that was related
is
to
it
the
just
next
based
one.
on feedback, and we recognize that feedback is generally going to come if there's a complaint, but not so often if there's a compliment. And I remember at one point we had a discussion about maybe having feedback forms that people could submit to either provide kudos or concerns.
Right, because that was the next one in there, and I wasn't sure if those two were related. I couldn't remember the conversation, so thank you.
I think they are related.
Yeah. Yeah, another question I had was on page 5, where we talk about, response time to residents, but how do we measure that? We don't have a CRM, or anything like that, so how do we go about measuring that, or is that just something we strive for?
Yeah, I think it would just have, from a staff perspective, I think it would just be something you have to strive for about paying, programming, updating our entire systems. I don't think there's a way to accurately measure it besides just kind of paper tallies, which in some aspect isn't really functional for what we do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I did try to move the ones like you would suggest, Jalen, move the ones that were kind of like things we strive for down to the bottom of each category.
I did see that.
So that one we should probably move down, I guess. Anyone? Anything else?
So I did see from when you guys did the budget kind of discussion with the residents, and it said, I think get rid of C-Click Fix. Is that something like a discussion or?
Well, yeah, that's not guaranteed to happen unless you guys approve that part of the budget. But
Okay.
we can talk about that more once we get to the next item.
Under fiscal responsibility is the item for contracts, and create a formal list of all city contracts we reviewed, and the comment says list created.
We have one. We have one.
Can we see it?
We can. The plan, I can give it to you guys
Yeah,
sooner. The plan was to do it during budget time, but we can give it to you guys sooner.
Okay.
That's one question.
John, Kelly, anything?
Nope.
So, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I
wait,
guess-
I'm sorry.
sorry, you go.
1 second. So, 2025, 2026 progress. So, are you going to? So, this is going to be like you're going to continuously like update this. Do you need like more pages, or are you going to like move this to a file and then continue to update it?
Yeah, and essentially move this to a file of the 2025-2026. So we track this essentially the rest of this fiscal year. And then if these are the same goals you guys want for FY 26-27, you essentially start a new progress tracker.
Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was just saying, at the last study session where we discussed this, we talked about maybe changing the format, fairly dramatically in terms of if we could come up with measurables, those became goals. If we didn't have measurables, we had more of philosophical statements that would be the header or something along those lines.
Well, I think, as I remember, Jalen just asked if we could group together the ones that were things that we could strive to but couldn't measure.
Right, yeah.
Unless I
Yeah,
misinterpreted
no, I think
that.
that's right, and they'd automatically have to either move there or go away if we didn't have some way to track them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I like I said, for each section, if there were ones that were more, let's strive to do that, and they're too hard to measure,
You moved it to
then
the
we
bottom.
moved it to the bottom. And the one change that I'll do is the one we just talked about with the, how do we measure response time, I'll move that one down to the bottom. Or Mike, you want to?
I got it right now.
You got it, okay.
I guess another thing that comes up from just looking at this is, and I know it's a budget thing, and you guys have probably talked about it before my time, but the fact that we don't have any kind of CRM, is that something that we can be discussing or continuing to explore? Because I think it's, we're seeing that in any number of places with the communications committee, et cetera, where it would be really useful. And, like I said, if there was exploration of this is before my time, but I'd like to see it continue.
Yeah, we have talked about it in the past. We can definitely talk about it again. That's a good reminder for me. I actually had a conversation with a resident who works in the space and is volunteered to do something for us very cheaply. I have his business card, and I was actually meaning to forward it to you. I forgot to bring it, but I'll get it to you, Mike.
Yeah, and depending on, restrictions of privacy, it might even be an asset, not just to government, but to to the community, if there was some way to leverage that type of thing. Even if you can see specifics, if you could still get.
Like reporting off of
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we've said we wanted for a long time. I mean, I think when we last talked about it, we were talking about like bringing in consultants for it, and it was expensive.
And, I know that flower bid was probably a mistake, but I do know when you go out shopping for CRMs, you get bids that are like, a couple thousand, and somebody will come in with, $500,000 bid.
Right.
So
Yeah, he's referring to it at the DDA. We had we did the yearly bid out for the flower pots, and we had one bid that was $1,800, which is the one that we accepted. There was the next closest bid was $26,800.
Yeah.
So they obviously either didn't want the business or didn't understand the bid. So, okay. Anything else? Nope.
That first item that you mentioned, funding was approved for, you said the staffing of, the first thing you mentioned, you said it got approved. The very first
Talking
thing
about
you
DDA
mentioned.
funding for Parks and Rec.
Okay. Oh, right. Yeah.
For Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Staffing.
Yeah, so at the DDA meeting, we brought back up the request for up to 4.5 hours of Austin sign for Park and Rec, and the DDA approved that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do have one more comment on the goals. Page 4, do more town halls. I do, as I've said many times, respect the effort made on the Headley ballot question, but I do think there's room for us to have a town hall still in the final half of this fiscal year. And, the library suggests itself. But I assume in order to do that, we have to start planning it fairly soon. That's my comment.
So do you think the library is enough to have a town hall? I mean,
I mean, it could be library plus.
something else.
Yeah. You know, open-ended is
Right.
often unwieldy, but
Right.
maybe because there hasn't been one for a while, you could open up a certain window for anything, but also focus it on a couple issues.
Any suggestions on other issues that we could combine with library?
Zoom out your next topic.
What's that?
Just continuation of the public budget input.
Yeah,
Maybe get more people.
Right.
We're gonna get there, but yeah, I think that would be.
Yeah, how many, well, you're gonna talk about that later, so it wasn't very many, but, okay. All right, you wanna use that as a transition into the, budget input?
Yeah, sure. So as council knows, every single year I try to host just at least to kind of kick off budget season, a little public input session for residents to come share their just initial thoughts of what they find important or what they think the city should focus on for this next year. Unfortunately, we only had 5 folks attend this year. It's just trended downwards ever since I started this. And 4 of them were regulars. 1 was a new resident, which was nice to see, but they didn't have much input as they're just kind of there to listen. But included in here is just some of the initial comments that were made throughout the event. This is more just an FYI for you guys. Take that as you wish, and then we'll kind of, and if you want, we can use it while we build the budget. This is what we got.
And when is our first budget meeting? I know we
You
approved the
guys,
calendar.
you guys will see the initial draft budget at your first April study session.
And that's gonna be, I think like we talked last time, multi-column for
It
different
is right now,
options.
yep.
Yeah, okay. Questions on that? All right, SOCRRA cart plus versus cart only.
Yeah, so as council is aware, we are part of the SOCRRA authority. SOCRRA and their staff handle and manage our waste contracts. We are due to go on to RFP for our contract. Doesn't expire until the end of, or June 30, 2027. But with waste recycling, you like to get the bids out at least a year in advance. So if in the event you do change haulers, they have enough lead time to get new trucks, get staffing, everything like that. One thing that we've discussed a lot at SOCRRA meetings are if anyone's interested in switching the offerings they provide. I think it's pretty much everyone in the SOCRRA authority is a cart plus community, which means you can essentially set whatever you want out at the curb, and for us, Tringali will pick it up. However, we know that if we go out for bid, there's a chance that we're going to have a very limited scope of people that actually bid on us because this is what we expect. And there's also kind of a fear with SOCRRA communities right now that it's out in the open, priority would win the bid. And for when they took over for GFL communities, which include a couple of our SOCRRA members, service has actually been absolutely terrible. But they undercut people so much in price, it's hard to argue against it. So one of the avenues we could explore is going cart only. From what SOCRRA is seeing, you will get more bidders if you go cart only, as there are some companies that only do that. For example, Waste Management, the only way they'll take a residential contract is if it is only cart only, which means everything has to fit in a cart or they will not touch it. Also on top of that, from what SOCRRA is seeing, if you go cart only, contracts are typically 15 and 20% less. So what I'm looking for kind of today is discussion of how you guys feel. If you want me to convey this to SOCRRA, and then they'll kind of build our portion of the RFP out however we want. So we can say, hey, we're looking for everything, and we'll figure it out once we get the bids in. Or we can say, hey, no, we like what our service is, we only want to bid cart only, and go that way.
You can't beat both.
No, that's what I mean. You can bid both.
Okay.
So you have the option of essentially, hey, we're going to stay our same route. Cart plus is what we do. You can say, hey, we like these perceived savings, cart only, or we can say, hey, please write it. We're gonna take whatever bid you guys can get for us, and then we'll compare it later.
I have a question about that. So the resident would have to call the waste management themselves to get the extras to be picked up, and they
Yep.
pay for it on their own.
Yes.
And so what is so 15 to 20%? What is that, like $45,000-$50,000?
Yep.
Wait, I'm sorry, 15 to 20% is what?
So if we, from what SOCRRA is seeing just in the waste industry as a whole, cart-only contracts are coming in 15 to 20% less than cart plus contracts. So it would be cheaper.
Right, but I just didn't, I understood that, the actual dollar amount is
Oh, it'd probably
roughly.
be, for us, it'd probably be 30, 40 grand, maybe more.
So are you saying that we could still have them, they could still bid out for cart and cart plus, and then we can make the decision
Yep.
at a later time,
Yeah, that's-
based on what the,
That, based on our conversation with SOCRRA, that's how they would treat it.
I don't think
But-
it hurts us to have the information.
Yeah,
Right.
but for them, naturally, they just need to know because we need to finalize the RFP sooner rather than later. And since every community is a little bit different, they have to essentially bid each section or develop each section a little bit differently. So for us, if we say, hey, we want to see everything, that's how they'll write it. Where I know there will be a couple of communities to say, no, we are saying cart only.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's probably best if we see both options, just because we're a cart plus community, and I'd rather see both sides before we just make a decision.
Yeah, plus with those numbers, then we can figure out how it fits into the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just,
it would suck to go to cart only.
This might be too deep, but I'm just remembering from a field trip to soccer that, and this is, you're talking about recycling and trash
Yeah.
pickup.
In yard waste.
But the cart only, would that apply to the, both recycle? Because, if I'm wrong, but I thought that like there was an incentive to have more recycling versus garbage, like that they weighed, when it came from the cities, they weighed the recycling, they weighed the garbage.
Yeah, and there is, but there's still just some companies. Naturally, if you're doing the cart plus, you need more staffing, you need different kind of trucks. When you're the cart only, you can specialize in those new modern trucks that have the arms and they can just go up, pick it up and go, and they keep on driving.
Yeah,
So,
no, I get in terms of bids from other companies, but I guess I was thinking that incentive for recycling in particular, for Cart Plus, isn't there some advantage to that, because we can put more recycling in on a given time?
Well, it'd be two separate containers,
yeah,
right?
these two carts still.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
get that, but like right now, you can put out as much
Boxes next to
recycling
the-
as you want, and I assume that's in the city's favor.
It's not necessarily in our favor, naturally, because our contract's pretty flat, so we
Okay.
just pay whatever. It does help SOCRRA, because if we collect waste and it's not contaminated, we have the chance to sell it and everything like that. So,
Okay.
but,
And it would be, I mean, regardless of whether we were to go cart or cart plus, it would be the same vendor though, right? I mean, it wouldn't be two different vendors, so it wouldn't be like we could wait to see whether Priority won either of those bids. It's one bid.
yep.
Okay.
Can you just give a little, maybe it's anecdotal, but you said communities that had priority were saying that the service was terrible.
Yeah, so from what you see in the newspaper and from what you hear, at the end of the day, from a business perspective, it seems like Priority bit off more than they could chew.
Yeah.
They essentially bought out GFL's entire Southeast Michigan service without anything prepared to take over.
Right.
As a priority customer,
Yeah.
I can share
Just out there.
firsthand. Yeah, I was previously with GFL. Where I live, we have to pay independently for it, and we got missed pickups week after week. They would you call and complain. They say, oh well, we bought all these trucks that we thought they were in better condition, and a bunch of mechanical issues. We're trying to get them safe, but bottom line, we've had, and then Lake Orion has had a lot of issues with Priority as well.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it just really seems like they bit off more than they could chew, and they could not scale fast enough to keep it.
Right.
And now that they have some of the old GFL trucks, they've rebranded, and a lot of them are in the shop, or it's like Scott was saying, they weren't to the quality they were expecting.
Wow.
So now it's kind of like buying any other large vehicle. If you were to buy a new garbage truck, it's probably a year out at least. So yeah, it's a tough spot to be a Priority customer right now, or Priority community.
Yeah, the SOCRRA meeting last week, it was on waste and recycling, and Priority was bashed pretty bad.
And it's one of those things. Maybe they'll change around. They have a new interim CEO, everything like that. So maybe they'll change things in the near future. But as of right now, their track record over the past couple of years is not in their favor.
So do you have what you need?
Yeah.
Yep.
See everything.
All right, we'll run right through it. Regular meeting agenda items, questions on that?
Yeah, this just answer any general questions. I just thought some of the other items would maybe take a little bit longer, but if you guys have any general questions for items of the regular meeting, you can address them now and then go from there.
I have one on the ZBA. So for the parking, my only question there is that the variance goes with the property. If there's a change in use, that doesn't allow you to open that up, or it does? So let's say 5 years down the road, that business closes down and you have a sit-down restaurant that's gonna be a high-intensity, high-parking use.
Yeah, I think it would, in that situation, you know, it would run with the property, assuming that it's the same use. If it's a change of use, then it's a different classification and a different threshold. Although, Pat, I'm looking at you, because that's something, you mentioned something that we may be revisiting the parking ordinance and potentially changing some of those standards, but, yeah, typically they would run with the property, but, again, generally, if you're changing classification of use.
Okay.
So.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say one more additional thing. I spoke with Jill about it, and we looked at it originally to see if we could do the whole building, but she said no, it'd have to be each unit. So yeah, if it was a change of use, it would have to go back to planning commission and start site plan review all over again.
Right, okay.
I was just wondering, because I went to that meeting too, and it seemed to me that there's only one classification for a restaurant, right? And yet, what you described with Dairy Fairy versus, you know, Jagged Fork
Yep.
or whatever, they seem like very different businesses with very different parking requirements, and I don't know if that's something we can
No, I
look
think it's
at
great.
down
Yep.
the road. But, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't work
Right.
if they brought in a sit-down restaurant there.
There is a difference between on-site food consumption and
Carry
off-site, so it carry out, so there is a different standard, but
But because they did have a small dining room in it,
Yeah.
we had to
Then
count
you
it
would
with,
consider
just like
right.
Olga's or for Jagged Fork.
Or, yeah, Holy Burger's got,
Yep.
you know, just a
Sit
few, but, yeah.
Yeah. Well, like you said at the meeting, I mean, pretty much everything in there is low-intensity parking usage. And like, I'm by there almost every day, and I never see more than 5 or 10 cars in the public lot and the front combined.
And I was driving by there this morning, so I stopped in and talked with the therapy center and asked them about their parking habits, and said that there's typically 2 to 4 employees there per day. They take up at most 4 spots. They usually park in the city parking lot. And most of their customers, it sounds like nearly all of them, come via a van service. So they're getting dropped off. It's not like there's clients coming and parking and staying on site.
But that could change.
It could change, but it would have to go through the site plan review process.
No, I mean, it could change if their clientele starts coming in.
Yeah.
Because the PT, people come in for a couple months, then they leave, you get
Mhm.
new clientele in. So right now it's all vans, but in the future.
You're right.
they could drive
It's a
themselves.
van they own, but you're right, it could
Yeah.
change.
Typically, if it's a van drop-off like that, it's usually a Medicaid or a Medicare operation, but not always.
You said it's their own van though, it's the
Mhm.
company's van.
It is.
All right, anybody?
Well, I don't know if this counts as but did you wanna talk at all about your recommendations on the DDA and the Board of Review appointments, or not? Is that?
Yeah, I can tell you who I was gonna recommend. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I think, for the, this is for the DDA. We have 3 applicants for 3 positions. Lisa Burr, happens to be both a resident and a business.
Yeah.
What's the word I'm looking for?
business and have interest in the
And
business.
has an interest in the business community as well. She works for Michigan First. Resume's good. Jeff Fitzrizik, also works for Michigan First. And then Charlotte Jones, which would be a reappointment. So she's on the board right now.
Okay.
And then for the board of review, there were 2 people, and one turned in their application late. Colin Walsh, is that his name?
Yep.
And so I was going to recommend him for as a backup. And then what was the name of the
Dominski.
Dominski, right? She had a really impressive financial resume. So I was gonna recommend her for the position.
And the board review has 3 people on the board, 2 are currently active, so really we only have 1 spot to fill. This fellow practice city's on for a while. Hopefully you have 3 and then you have alternate. Because naturally, board review meetings are always during the day. It's tough if people can't get away from work to volunteer for this duty. Someone else can always fill in.
And we've had problems in the past where we
Yeah.
haven't had enough.
Yeah, it's
people
always
for-
nice to have more, because you need 2 to have a quorum. Sometimes you can't get those 2, and nothing worse than someone trying to come fill their taxes and they can't.
So basically, all the seats, the only applications you got were for the seats that are available.
Yes.
No one else.
Yeah, so like I said, it was an easy recommendation. Yeah,
Yeah, no, so that's it, there are no more,
no more applicants.
and then
for
we
either.
do have opening on the planning
Commission.
commission, is that just one?
Just 1 spot.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'm gonna bring up 2 other things. I was gonna bring it up at the meeting, but I'm bringing it up because it's a good time to discuss it. So 5 years ago, when we did the road recommendation, one of the things that was in the recommendation was at around the 3 to 5 year mark, that we start looking at crack sealing to protect the investment. Because without it, you lose a couple of years, on the life of the road. So we're at that point. I think we started in 2022. So I know, we were doing the budget, so that was one thing I wanted to, have you consider, as part of the budget. And obviously that'll would come out of the road funds, not out of the general fund, so it wouldn't be a general fund hit. And then the other issue was, one of the advantages that we touted with the road millage was that we wouldn't, for those years that we were under the road millage, we wouldn't have to be doing the transfers from the major road fund to the local road fund, so that we could build up that balance. And one of the reasons why we wanted to do that was because, again, 5 years ago, the recommendation from the engineers was that within the 4 to 5 year range, 11 Mile was going to be getting to the point where we could no longer do a mill and fill, and instead we'd have to do one of the either near full or full reconstruction, which is 2 to 3 times more expensive. So again, we're at that 5 year point now from when that statement was made by the engineers. And again, the idea was that we were going to be saving that money so that we would have it for the project. And I know we got $1 million plus in there now, but so I think that's something that we should at least be discussing with Gibbles Webster's, whether or not, we're still at a point where we can do a mill and fill, and if so, how much longer do they think it's gonna go to where we can't? And one of the things that I've noticed is the eastbound lane, with all the construction traffic that we've had being diverted up on 11 Mile, it is degrading fast. It's really bumpy as you come back down there, so I'm a little concerned that we're gonna get to the point where where our cost is going to rise dramatically if we don't do something soon. So, you were going to say something.
I was just thinking, the bumpiness could be the time of year too,
Yeah,
the freeze thaw cycle.
yeah, yeah, some of it, but
Yeah,
then you
but
have the
yeah.
freeze thaw, and then you got all the cars going on it, and it causes cracks and potholes. So I think those are a couple things we need to look into in the relative near future.
That would be more closure on 11 Mile.
But I mean, by the time we would get that going, it would already, the 696 stuff would be done, right? Because it's not something we can do this year at this point.
Right.
All right, anybody have anything else?
For the meeting or for the agenda?
Just discuss-
I have something else. I do. Let me get my notes. Sorry. I just had it in front of me. Oh yeah, here we go. So, I was wondering, I'll start with this thought, which is, do we have a study session perhaps devoted to a mid-project review with Gibbles Webster on the master plan process? And in particular, could we, ask for some updates on things, including engagement metrics right now in their engagement plan. I'd like a little more information about how they pick the comparables, the comparable, the comparative cities. I know that it's mostly South Oakland, but, so I'd like to ask, I have a number of questions that I'd like to ask them. I think if we don't ask them now, we run the risk of the whole process being done, and then we won't have a chance to sort of get that type of update. So that's my suggestion, is that we have a study session specifically with them, and we can ask them questions about the process.
We could bring them in for the next study session. Within that's
Yeah,
2 weeks. Oh, was that next week?
That's next week.
Next week, yeah, because we're pushed back again.
I can ask them if they're available. One thing with the master plan I want to always remind people of, this is just a review and update. This is not a full comprehensive rewrite. So from my perspective, watching the planning commission, they are following the proposal that was approved by city council. But yeah, I can see if they're available.
I mean, we can cast it that way, and it certainly will be that if we don't change the way the process is going. I've heard reference to the fact that on the one hand, the city's done a good job of keeping the master plan updated, but I think we all agree, and I think it was said at this council, not by me, that the 5-year ago one during COVID was more or less a sort of a very mild update to the one before that. So we're really talking about a decade since the last master plan update. I also think there was an expectation, and maybe it was just mine, but it felt like it was broader than that. That we really take a hard look. I mean, a great example is the boulevard, right? The boulevard was always sort of baked into the master plan idea. I think it seems as though we're moving toward a master plan that doesn't include that boulevard, from what I've seen and from what it would mean for the DDA as well as the community. So to me, if that's what we contracted for, I'd like to at least review that assumption. And then also get, like I said, updates on some of these questions.
I know you said you had some concerns too, like
I do, yeah.
like the survey I think you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, they're not here, I could put it to them, but, I would like to sort of move away from generalities towards specifics, and I think we'd get higher engagement too if some of these questions were framed as real trade-offs. Because that's what we're gonna have to do, right? It's trade-offs. If you choose to go this way, then you have to give something up. And what I'm seeing so far in the surveys, et cetera, is do you like X or Y? And I think, most of them are framed in a way that everybody kind of likes them. But what do you do with that information? What's the cost, et cetera? So I have some concerns like that. I think if we had a study session, we could maybe help them refine the process. So
Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah.
At the MEDC meeting that we had
Yeah.
today, one of the things that he said, I know you and I tend to think that the engagement is really low.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how 5 years ago some of the decisions were made on 14 responses.
Yeah.
But they were really impressed with the number of responses that we had. They said, "Oh wow, 100 responses. That's really good for a master plan."
Well,
which was interesting.
But again, it sort of also, you can respond and that's engagement, but then
Right.
what are the takeaways you can take? And that's really
Right.
based on the questions that you're asking.
Right. No, I know where you're going. I'm just saying. what they
Yeah,
had
and
said.
then the other thing, since you brought that particular view up, and it's been, everybody that's had experience in government has those stories that engagement is traditionally not as high as we're looking for here. My thought on that is, okay, that's true, but do we care? Is that our goal, is to be, hitting those low levels that we've seen in other cities? Now, the communication engagement thing is a great step in that direction. I really hope that it can find its way. But I think I would hate for it to be working in an environment where, whenever they say, here's a problem, that we just say, well, it's good compared to X or Y. Like, we don't care about that, right? We want to have higher engagement and real public input. So I just warn against sort of setting that sort of, environmental, low bar. It's like, let's set our bar high and see how far we miss. I thought on that. So, great.
All right.
If that's possible. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I'm done.
I was gonna see if the chief could talk more to the ballistic shield purchase. You don't know. I'm just curious. I know everything. I just wanted to.
Yeah, so this has been something that the city's requested for years, just for officer safety. Our bulletproof vest right now only stops small caliber handgun rounds, which are good for traffic stops and making contact with the public. But we all know in this day and age with assault rifles and active shooters and things like that, one being right here in Oakland County, multiple actually in Oakland County, lightweight ballistic vests that will actually stop rifle rounds are just something for officer safety. And again, we've been asking for these for years, especially with the school in our district. This gives officers the ability to enter buildings and things like that with a lightweight shield that covers the majority of their body. We've had multiple instances over the years where these would have been handy. I mean, granted, we've had shots fired runs and things like that. We haven't had officers fired at per se, but you never know when that time's coming. And we just want to be prepared in the future for this.
Was it hard to get a bid for an amount under what we bid for, or what we kind of set out to pay?
Yeah, so these can range from anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 for a very basic shield, all the way up to $25,000 a shield, depending on the bells and whistles that you want on it. If you want a viewing window so your head is invisible at all, they've got blue lights and yellow or red lights on the front, so they flash as you're going in to cause distraction to potential targets and things like that. They can range up to $25,000 per shield. So I went to the Chiefs Conference this past session here 2 weeks ago, and I talked to several suppliers. And I came up, I held this one while they were doing demos. It's only 11 pounds. That will allow all of our officers, regardless of strength, to be able to hold this shield in certain situations and hold it for an extended period of time. This also gives them the capability of stopping high-powered rifle rounds. So to answer your question, yes. And with the request for proposal, I was going back between 3 companies, and I actually ended up getting them down a few $1,000s to come about, because my original budget was $13,000. I was able to get them down a little bit, but that was with a lot of going back and forth. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
And is it 2 per car, 1 per car?
One per car.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
Total
and if you and I know you're looking at, we have 2 officers on, and then we're asking for, the reason we're asking for 4 is, if we have a car in the shop, and we have 3 cars, we have 2 officers on, if Sergeant Houston and I are on duty, we run out, say the big run comes out, we want a shield too.
Right.
You know what I mean? We want to be able to go in and we have potentially up to 4 officers responding on days. So that's why we wanted 4 ballistic shields, 1 for each patrol car.
Yeah, okay. Lori, are you recording? You know the rules, the recording has to be on a tripod and has to be set up ahead of time, so, I mean, that is the rule. So,
Unfair, bro.
doesn't matter, that's the rule. All right, anything else? Okay, we'll open it up for public comment. Anybody wishing to speak, step up to the podium, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, Jonathan Terra. I watched the DDA meeting from, I believe, this past Wednesday on YouTube, and I noticed something that was of particular interest to me, and in conjunction with that, I want to issue a challenge to I'll get to the point in a minute, to the new Communications and Engagement Committee and Council and PD and everybody who works for the city to get the word out about an upcoming event, I believe on April 29th? Chase, I may have the date wrong. Chase and PD and I believe DDA are sponsoring an event on detecting scams. I think RPD is particularly adept and trained at this. It'd be great to use this as a test case for getting the word out. Unfortunately, I noticed that this meeting in the community room is at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday. Maybe that's good for the senior demographic, but maybe not the best time for everyone. I don't know if it's too late to change that, and we've got somebody coming from Chase, they may have constraints. Maybe this can be repeated in the future, maybe with, you know, with Huntington Bank, we have the Michigan First Credit Union, maybe give them their turn in the barrel too. And that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Autumn Suzanis, Rainbow Drive. I heard you mention the term, Mayor Kantor, you were looking at cracked ceilings to determine the need for road repair. I suspect that must be some kind of jargon or lingo used with road repair, but I'm thinking cracked ceilings, I don't understand. So maybe could you be more, a little bit more easy to understand? And then mill and fill, same thing, I'm assuming it means ground up, and I don't know, really, would like a little more. And then I would like to address the, what I believe to be the unreasonable, illegal, and unjustifiable videotaping requirement of setting a camera up before the meeting on a tripod. The right to record a public meeting in a public building is a First Amendment right. It's our in our Constitution, and I've heard many explanations about how we're copying some other cities. I think other cities are wrong too. I don't think I don't think it would hold up in a court of law. I think an open meeting, the person could come in late, record what they have time to record, and leave. There's no demand that you record the entire meeting or from a certain perspective, a certain little square, little box in the corner. You can't capture everyone's face. I think anyone in this room should be entitled, including you guys, to record at will, public meeting in a public space. I just want to be on the record about that again. I think that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Sure, quickly. Hi, Timothy Hillman, San Quentin. First, thank you to Councilman Hammond and Councilman Suzanis for taking up the initiative on the Communications Committee. Jonathan and I happened to sit in on that one, and it seems like we've got a good bunch of qualified and eager residents to help achieve their purposes, one of which I noticed to increase engagement, and that's great. I think we need it. I would like to put a fine point on, there's a few people on that committee, like Rick Wiz, for example, who's kind of a mainstay at stuff like this, but several of the people on that committee expressed their desire to become more engaged, and that's why they joined it. So it, in and of itself, is kind of an early win for that committee. So I like that. What's the second thing I wanted to mention? Oh, to the discussion about parking requirements. I think there's something there. I don't quite have an idea fully formed in my head, but obviously the site plan flowed through the planning commission last week, and of course nobody wants so little parking that pizza buyers are spilling into the neighborhood, but it strikes me looking at the preparation for that site plan to learn that the city is requiring something like Papa's Pizza to have 14 parking spots, which my waistline and cholesterol level will make clear to you that I like eating pizza and I go there often. There's never freaking 14 people there at any given time. So there might be some appropriate right sizing to consider. Again, I know that nobody wants spillover parking into the neighborhoods, but we also don't want unnecessary blacktop littering city spaces that could look better. So some new attention to that might be good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it was, yes.
Laura Coons. I had a thought as you were saying about a town hall. What if we put the CART plus the SOCRRA thing on the agenda for residents? I, for one, think you're taking away all of our amenities, chipping, library. Well, let's take away our CART plus. Next ice storm, all the chipping's gonna be left, nobody's gonna haul it away. The garbage, it's code enforcement doesn't even take care of what's out there. The second thing I wanted to address was addressing the city council. It has been revised, and it looks to me that we have less opportunities to speak. Another way to shut us down. One occasion, one time to speak 3 minutes. I don't think that's very fair. And maybe that could go on your town hall agenda as well. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? There is no one else, but, okay. So mayor and council comments, just to respond, Autumn, to your question about crack sealing and mill and fill. So crack sealing, so when a road is repaved, you have natural cracks that will start to form almost immediately. The idea is.
On the top surface.
On the top surface.
That's what
So the
sealing-
idea is to start sealing those cracks in about a 3 to 5 year time frame. Because once water starts getting underneath there, we know what happens with the freeze and thaw, and you know they estimate about a reduced 2+ years life to the 20-year life that you're supposed to get without crack sealing. So when we made the recommendation 5 years ago, we had also recommended to preserve the value and the investment that the city made into the roads that we do a crack sealing program to preserve those roads.
I thought you said sealing like
No.
Sealing.
Sealing, S-E-A-L.
Answer
Yeah.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right.
No cracks in the, well, we do have cracks in the
Right.
ceiling, and that's a whole other issue that we'll
Okay.
talk about
Different
tonight,
Different
but
product.
different product, or different
Okay.
different problem. And then mill and fill, so when we redo roads, there's multiple options. The cheapest is called mill and fill, where they take off the top 3, they grind off the top 3 inches of roadway, and they just repave over it. And so that's for 11 mile. That's what we would ideally like to do, because it's the cheapest, and it's also a mile worth of road on 2 sides. And then the other options are much more intensive, where you have to take the entire road surface off, or take the entire road surface off and the substrate that's below it and replace it. So those are much more expensive options. Yeah, the fraud event. Do you have the date and
April
time? And I can make an announcement during the meeting.
Will that be recorded?
We can look into recording it.
We're looking at recording that and say, is it, I mean, I see that hesitancy, it's the cost, right? Yeah, okay, so April, what'd you say, April 29th at 10 a.m.? Alright.
Quick question, do you know when we will probably get that, the RFPs for SOCRRA? For the cart versus cart only?
Oh, you guys won't see those until probably January, February 2027. So the plan is to put it out for bid in late June, early July. Bids like these will probably run 3-ish months. And then SOCRRA and legal over there will review them, make sure they meet everything, make sure we don't have questions. And at that point, I'll start going before councils for considerations. But yeah, ideally, you're approving this January, February 2027 for effective date of July 1, 2027.
Do you know how soon we have to choose the RFP? Like, do you know how soon we have to choose? Like, say we get the contract January 27. Is it like it needs to be done by February?
I'd say this: if it comes back and it's leaning like you are going to choose a different vendor than our current one with Tringali, the sooner the better, so we don't have a delay in service once July hits.
And if we go cart only, they'd have to distribute carts to everybody in the city.
Yeah, they have to do full new cart layout unless they review the carts we currently have and buy out Tringali's carts and all that. But yeah, if you want cart only, there's a lot of logistics behind the scenes that have to get done before July 1 hits.
Yeah, the other downside is you have another huge cart to put in so you have 2 huge carts that'll be in your garage or on the side of your house.
That's all I know.
I have a question where Tim Hillman sent an email to us regarding the Pan-African flag, and I never saw anything that was responded to.
Yeah, so Tim and I had a conversation about that afterwards. I had spoken to Mike about potentially issuing a further statements and you might wanna,
Well, for the flag, there is a flag.
oh, I'm
currently
sorry,
in
we
the
were talking
lobby.
about the flag?
Mhm.
Oh, sorry about
Yeah,
that.
Pan-African flag's currently in the lobby. We were
sorry.
looking to hang on the flagpole. PD handles that from what we can tell. It can't handle 3 flags currently. Plus, there's also that 2-week period where it's under 0 degrees. The last thing we want people out there trying to mess with it. But we do currently have it on flagpole in the lobby.
Okay, and everybody understands what the Pan American flag, African flag means?
Yeah, I mean, it's in support of, I mean, I don't know the specific details, but, you know, in support of the African countries and.
So it's not, my understanding, and Tim, you can help me, this flag was supposed to be flown in honor of Black History Month, right?
Right.
That's traditionally what communities have done. In fact, yesterday or the day before, the city of Ferndale posted to its social media accounts another annual kind of declaration of the flag that they fly outside of their city hall. I'm not sure if there was a flag raising ceremony for it, but the Pan-African flag is essentially a flag representing the African diaspora, so not only African descendants in the continent of Africa, but also Black Americans and African descendants across the globe, and it's traditionally flown at this time of year to coincide with Black History.
So, my concern about it is because it's not specifically for Black people. That is, and I did talk to the Ferndale mayor. And so, and I'm not gonna disclose what he said, but it was just, it's not representative of Black History Month. When talking about Black history, is specifically about what Black people have done to contribute to our, to the world, what we have contributed to, rather it be, you know, I don't know, like Dr. King and doing with the civil rights movement, or Rosa Parks that helped with the movement for the busing and just equal civil rights. And when it comes to the Pan-African flag, which when I researched it, and what you're saying is that it is for, you know, the African, which I'm agreeing with you, the African diaspora, but it's for white people that are from Africa and Black people. That it's for everybody. So it's not really like you would probably. I probably would have, and I'm just saying this as an example before this is taken out of context. You would probably have more in alignment with a Black History Month flag if you flew the Black Panther flag, you know, because that's majority Black people for Black people. So I was just, you know, wondering to not, which I appreciate you sending the email, and I would have liked to know what happened with the question that he had, is that I think before we do knee-jerk reactions or things to that appeases people, or what other communities are doing, is that we truly look and see what they mean. Because honestly, if I would have saw it, it would have been like, what flag is this? It might have been also better. Like when I see the pride flag, I know what it means. I know what each one, don't ask me to do it right now, but I know what each one means. If you're an ally, or, you know, there's different things to it. The Pan-African flag really gave me a pause, because I'm like, hey, I've been Black the majority of my life and I don't know what that means. So I just, and it went along with the knee-jerk reaction, is that just like the proclamation that we did for ICE, I think it was, writing something on paper and not having any teeth in it is just performative. And I just think that we as a community, if we really want our voices to be heard, or we really want to do something, then, you know, let's stop skirting around it, and really, we have the power to do whatever you want. I think we missed the boat with the Black history, and that just like I'm sure people how they felt about the pride flag. I feel you now, and I understand it, because I feel the same way at this point.
Do you think there's another symbol that could be more appropriate? I mean, I'm just
There are
asking.
flags that have the red, green, and black.
Yeah.
If you flew that flag or you put it in the lobby,
Yeah.
every single person knows what that
Yeah.
represents.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's just, it's truly just a
Yeah.
conversation, and just as we sit here and we talk about, well, this city did this, so we're gonna do this because that city did that, I think that, we really need to just kind of, you know, what's good for Lathrup Village, and what's good for our residents, what's gonna make them feel that they're being represented correctly, and what is performative, and what is actually, we're doing something about it.
Yeah, that all makes sense, and I agree, especially about the comparing, because every city's different, and we want to be different. The other thing, with ICE as an exception, I come back to it, but I think one thing I've noticed is we're making decisions really close to the date. For instance, the proclamation tonight,
And you have
on
4
the
days left.
23rd of February. I get it, the calendar gets off, et cetera, but maybe as we look at agendas going forward, we can get ahead of this a little bit and start making these decisions, or having even public discussion about them well in advance of that item. The other thing, it'll allow more public discourse, and it won't feel as much like we're just deciding something, so.
Thank you, I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
And I totally understand what you're saying and the apprehension behind it, but the one thing that we would need to look at though is the from a technical perspective, the ordinance does have the Pan American flag as a pre-approved flag, so it is in our policy.
But it also had something where that whoever is the council at that time can agree to fly whatever flag, because I know I disagreed with that. So that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take some responsibility for that. When drafting that policy, that we looked at what other flags had been flown at the US Capitol, the state capitol, and the county complex, and that was specifically one that was identified, so that's why that was, and I think it was also included in Madison Heights, but yeah, the insensitivity of just assuming that was representative of, I'll take responsibility for that.
Yeah, and that's something we can look at changing if we want to do that, so.
What are you gonna say, Tim?
I was gonna say the same thing, but the policy that council approved specifies 3 or 4 commemorative flags, the Pan-African flag being one of them, the Juneteenth flag being another flag, the Pride flag being the third, and I believe those are the only 3 that go beyond the American flag, the flag for the state of Michigan, and the County flag. So my request was based on what the ordinance says, so that's why I made it.
Well, I appreciate you being conscious of it.
Who did you speak with at the city of Ferndale?
The mayor?
You said he, and the
I
city of
said
Ferndale
she.
has a female mayor.
Yeah, I talked to Raylon.
Okay.
I just wanted to say two quick things. I didn't know that Chase Bank was coming back, and I do not speak a lot, but I pounded the pavement to get business licenses in order. And I went to Chase and I promoted a good relationship with us because residents had been complaining about all types of fraud, and a lot of them were Chase Bank customers. And then when it got set up the first time, I was out of the loop. My background is in promotion, all types of promotion. And then I set it up with them again to make sure attendance would be good and it'd be done in the evening, because it's not just for the elderly. It's happening in so many sophisticated ways. I'm really hurt that I was left out the loop. I'm just speaking as someone that has a vested interest in the city and the residents, because I've talked to so many people, and I constantly talk, and Mike can co-sign for this. He doesn't know why I talk so much to residents, but I talk to them to try to engage them, and I invite them to all types of things. I invite them to planning commission meetings, to master plan meetings, to town halls, to other things. I point out stuff, I make extra copies, I double face things and tape them on the windows and the glass to try to make sure that people are included. So I do think it should be in the evening and not during the day, because it's much more than just for retired people. There are people looking out for their elderly parents that would need to know this information as well. Somebody approached our city today worried about the title deed and title deed theft. I really think it'd be great to do that. The other thing is, in my background, there was many people that if you don't work, you don't eat. So if you were a promoter of a club and nobody showed up, you were fired. If you were the DJ or the singer and no one came, you were fired. So I mean, this is no offense at all. With the Communication and Engagement Committee, get 10 of your neighbors. each member, all 7 members of the committee, get 10 of your neighbors to come to these master plan meetings. Stress how important it is to tell their friends, to tell their friends, to tell their friends. Because if you can engage them and get them in, we can have that, as well as all the other committees, if we can cross-promote this at all the other meetings that I don't get a chance to go to. So all of them make sure that they tell their friends and they tell their friends, business owners, to all come out to this master plan meeting, all the different ones. That would be excellent. Thank you for listening.
Okay, anything else?
I got 2 quick things. I do think, that's great advice for everybody. We have to keep in mind that the committee is largely advisory. We're looking at how we can also be an action committee, but, and live what we preach, so that I agree with what you're saying, but it is an advisory committee. The other thing I'd like to ask is that, assuming I think the next study session is a week from now,
Yeah.
so we may not be able to get Giffords-Webster here, I don't know, but an agenda item I would like is to have just an open, calm discussion about the videotaping rule, because I too have some questions about whether it's enforceable. I'd like to have a rule that promotes a lack of disruption, but also make sure that we're safe as a council in having a rule that complies with the state law.
Yeah, I mean, I can address that briefly because I know we have to be in the other room, but, again, it's just the justification behind the policy is to minimize disruptions during the meeting.
No, I understand that.
The birth of the policy was due to a number of disruptions and other residents commenting and coming to council saying that they didn't feel comfortable
Correct.
participating due to what they perceive to be intimidation.
I do understand the history of it
So-
and the need for it. And what I'm questioning is the language in it and whether it's actually enforceable. And I'd just like to have that discussion at the next study session. And we can come prepared for it.
Yeah, we can have it. I mean, yeah, we can do that.
And then people will see it and they'll hear it and they'll have their say as well.
Yeah, real quickly, because we gotta get to the next one.
Probably, so this is probably good, talking about the fraud. My detective and I right now, we're currently working on a May fraud meeting. I didn't know about this Chase Bank thing, this is new to me tonight. But we were actually talking about putting on one for elderly residents and one for the general public. Having one during the day in May, kind of when the weather turns, so we can get more residents out versus the cold. And then doing one in the morning for our elderly residents specifically, and then one a couple months later for the general public later in the evening. So I just wanted to add that, it's not really, we don't have dates set, but we will.
It does speak to a need for more communication, doesn't it?
Right, yeah.
Thanks, Mike.